for those of you that have made it on time, right? I wasn't expecting us to start early enough, but I'm so glad that you made it possible for us to begin. And like Charles said, this is like our third mixer, and some faces are familiar, and some faces are new, and to all of you, new and old, we say welcome. This is an event where we are kind of like focusing on our youth, who are the torchbearers of what we do. Especially since we stand on the shoulders of amazing leaders, amazing civil rights leaders, amazing communities that have made our lives in the United States worthwhile. And we know that even though we enjoy the blessings that this country has offered us, there's still work to be done, and that's why we're here. Today really is about connecting and celebrating. We have plenty of food, you know. Yeah, that's right. We have plenty of food to eat, we have drinks, and we have what I'm calling, this is a socially conscious party, where we are going to awaken our spirits to the importance of diversity and the beauty that diversity really brings to our community. Our event couldn't have been made possible without the help of quite a few institutions, including, as you will see behind me, the California State Library. We want to thank the Ethnic Media Services, the California State Library, the Department of Social Services, the State of California for making this happen. We are having this because we are here to stop hate. I hate to say stop hate, but actually that is a reality. So we are here to find out how our children, our youth, are faring. So I'm so happy that you're here, and there are more people yet to come. And we hope that you will give your undivided attention to these young people who have prepared themselves to educate us and enlighten us on what it is. And especially for me as an African mother, it's kind of sometimes challenging. I don't understand what's going on, and sometimes they have to enlighten us. So I want to start by first of all acknowledging some people that made this happen beyond the names that I just listed. We have Sheila in the house. Emily's right there. She'll have a chance to say something. I want to thank Fatima, who is my media partner. We want to thank Mr. Ulian Doe. Ulian, thank you so much for being here, because Ulian, it's thanks to you that Immigrant Magazine really got involved. You're one of those that really spurred us on to do this. And I want to thank Sway, who's here, Ethnic Media. So you can see that there is a diversity of voices here today that are here not just to listen but to share. And of course I want to thank all the Stop the Hate ambassadors, African Diaspora, right there, Foundation, Prince Maduku, who is one of our co-chairs, and so many of you. And not forgetting the sponsors that made it possible for us to even have food to eat. You know, sometimes the resources can only go thus far. I want to thank, where's Miss Ghislaine? Mrs. Ghislaine? She's right there. She said, we will have food to eat. She's one of those. We couldn't do this without food. She made sure that happened. Miss Virginia right there? Yes, some of the delicious food you can eat provided by her. Where's Liz? Liz Shanghai. She's another food caterer and sponsor. And then I want to also thank Wood Masters, who is a major sponsor for us, Comfort Paradise. Is Naomi here? She's not here yet. Belle the Cat. Ian, that you see right there, who's photography, cinematography, they are sponsoring today. As a matter of fact, our project manager is not here. Jeremy could be here with us, but Ian is here. But he said, Ian, I'm counting on you now. And of course, we couldn't do this without the support of the moderators of today that you will be coming up soon. I will not introduce them, but I just want to say thank you to my co-chair from the International Society of Black Latinos, my sister Juanita. Not only she's a moderator, but I'm thanking you for your sponsorship too. Thank you. The delicious desserts, did you make them, sis? Just say yes. That's the secret. She made sure that we had some sweets to enjoy. And of course, Reverend Sauce, who's always going to inspire us with amazing words. I want to thank the panelists that will be coming up. I don't want to take the time because the moderators will introduce them to you. But thank you all for being here. And without further ado, Dr. John Modeni couldn't be here, but he made sure we have food. Ms. Lara, who is one of our co-chairs, couldn't be here, but she made sure we have food. Ms. Marie Noel couldn't be here, but she made sure we have food. Mr. Rodrigue, is he here? He's not here yet. He also made sure. Now, these are individuals that called me and said, Pamela, I can't be there, but how can I support? And they sent some resources. In short, they sent me some dollars so we could have food. So thank you so much. Who else, Charles? Mr. Fomokong couldn't be here. No, he's coming, right? He'll be here, but I need to acknowledge him. Charisma, the delicious samosas and Charisma taste from Kenya. So we have food from a variety of different cuisines. And Fran Batista is here. Fran, where are you? Stop the hit partner. Miss Emily, do we already see you? And where's Miss Sanai from the African Coalition? She's right here. She's going to provide you resources. So this is the social conscious party. Yeah. Yes, we're going to dance, but let's enlighten and open our minds.
Everyone, for just being here, your presence is as important as everything else, because without you here, we don't exist. So thank you so much for just being here and for opening your ears so we can inform ourselves with the quality of information we need to be able to advance our agenda as a collective of people of African descent.
And I just want to thank Mr. Lentini. Thank you. I know when I called you, he just got back from Nigeria, you all. This gentleman, he made this is his place. So please, if you have events, you want to host, let's support our own. We start stopping the hate by supporting our own and building a community. I want to thank my children that helped me. They came here early and they helped Ms. Vanessa, Mr. Preston and Chan, Paul Jr. Thank you. My parents came and they helped me. Thank you all so much. And this is a family affair. All right. Thank you so much. And without further ado, let's start by eating and drinking and getting to know one another. Okay? Thank you.
For housekeeping, the restrooms are to my right. Over here we have drinks. We have some red wine. We went to the store to particularly pick some good Pinot Noir, some of the best in the world. So enjoy some red wine, some white wine, and if you want some sodas, everything is here. What we have here is what we have for you. If you want something different, the bartender is there, she will collect your check, no problem, she will take the money from you. But what we have here is pretty good. I think by the time you're done here, you should be happy. So please enjoy yourselves. We are here to have a great time and talk about our advancement, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Yeah. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the movement for us.
And as we eat, well, we're not going to say we eat and then get to it. As we eat, we will be working. So let's go get some food, and as you get your food, we'll start the program. Thank you so much.
What is happening in America today is dangerous. And we are not going back into where we were with segregation. We have to move forward. So we need to make sure we vote, we keep all our rights that we've earned, women's rights, voting rights, and all the rights that we've earned in the struggle. We should make sure we sustain and maintain those rights as we move forward, so that we change the narrative about our people in the business of management and governance. So today we're talking about Stop the Hate, which is another angle of diversity, equity, and inclusion. When that is not well practiced, once we don't get proper diversity, equity, and inclusion, what happens is we have situations of hate because of misunderstanding and under-education of who thyself is. So it is really important that we come together as such to make sure that we enlighten ourselves with the wisdom, not just intelligence, the wisdom we need to sustain and the wisdom we need to be able to transfer wealth of knowledge to our children so they will carry that knowledge of our heritage and our powers to the future. Thank you. Where's the Queen? Queen Pamela? Come and take it over. I said enough for tonight.
Hello, 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 some of the resources that we have in the community. We start with Ms. Fran. Bautista Fran, are you here? Where are you? Right here. Can you please come forward and tell us a little bit about your organization and the resources that you have for our youth and our community? Thank you.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. So my name is Fran Bautista, they/she pronouns, and I serve as the South Program Coordinator at the North County LGBTQ Research Center. Nope. So actually I was born and raised in LA, even though I'm in San Diego now. Is anyone here from San Fernando Valley, 818 folks? Yeah, let's go representing, I love it. So awesome. So thank you my dear friends Pamela and Charles for inviting me to speak here today. I just want to tell you, as Pamela said, the work that I do at the center, the things that we offer to our community, and so I'm going to tell you all about that. So the North County LGBTQ Research Center, our mission is to serve, empower, and advocate for North County's lesbian, bi, gay, queer, questioning, trans, and intersex, and more, so LGBTQI+ community. And a few highlights of what our center has to offer. We have housing assistance, medication-assisted treatment for those suffering from substance abuse disorder. We're the only Narcan distributor in our entire region. And we have weekly food distribution that we source from local grocers. So, like, being here at the Cultural Lounge, we also support our local businesses as well. And then coming back to what I specifically do, as mentioned, our center received a stop pay grant from the California Department of Social Services to strengthen our work like our services for victims, survivors of hate crimes and incidences, and it also to bolster our connection with culture and partners like Immigrant Magazine, another stop pay program that I oversee. And so we support the following areas in the fight against specifically LGBTQ+ hate. So providing free and low-cost therapy, so reducing that mental health access barrier. Project Youth, as we're talking about our youth here, so we have specific social support groups, monthly, and leadership development opportunities for ages 9 to 25. We also have a specific gender advocacy project for providing education, legal, social, and health resource building services for our trans, non-binary, and expansive community. And I'm really proud to announce this. We have a newly formed immigration services area for those referrals, education, advocacy for our undocumented queer. So those who identify as undocumented and LGBTQI+ migrant community. So I just want to pause here and emphasize that yes, we are in San Diego, but all of these things that I'm mentioning, the center and myself, are still resources and services that are available to you, someone you know, love, or in your community, because our reach has expanded past our North County. We are even serving folks in Riverside, in Orange County, we're even going to Inland Empire, so we're probably going to be able to really soon at this point because that's where people are. After this entire spiel, people are like, wow, that's amazing, what can I do to support? Which is something Pamela asked me as well. So I really came prepared to answer that question today, and I really want to invite you all to join me in the center for a specific event in the fight against hate that is our annual Pride Festival called Pride by the Beach. So this year, I mentioned to a couple folks, thank you all for already talking to me earlier, but we're kicking off June as Pride Month with Pride by the Beach being held on Saturday, June 1st from 12 to 6 p.m. in San Diego. It is the north part of San Diego, so it's only about an hour and a half drive compared to 2, so hopefully it's a bit more incentive for you all to come out. It's free, family-inclusive Pride Festival located in San Diego, as I mentioned. We've actually noted that this is notably highly LGBTQI+ visibility in our region because we've attracted 20,000 attendees just last year. To me, 20,000 plus people means that we're all looking for such spaces like us here today, where we're trying to celebrate understanding, community, and love. There's going to be a bunch of stages for live music and dancing. I see that we all love dancing here, so I'm going to highlight that. We have interactive, a complete youth zone. We have an artist alley to support our local artists, and then also we have local business banners all throughout the thing, so we can all really support the local economy. But they're not just from San Diego, we have folks from LA, SoCal, we have some folks coming from NorCal because that's how much this Pride Festival means to them as well. And the last thing I want to know about Pride by the Beach, that this year's theme is Our Stories, Our Power. I feel like it really resonates with a lot of folks here. Especially for me, I really believe it's within sharing our collective stories across various identities, where we have this opportunity to learn about each other's rich culture, history, and most importantly, what makes each and every one of you and us a very unique and beautiful self. And then that all brings us together as one united community to stop the hate and spread the love, which is something that Pamela and I really connected with in our first talk. And so I just want to leave this last message that remember that we're never really alone, and despite that we're all working on together, there's love and power in our stories in our community. And thank you for this time. I really look forward to talking to everyone further. After I finish eating, I'll
a no-hate zone. This is a zone for the revolution, okay? So if you have any questions, please feel free to meet our friend, and she has some resources to share. So our next resource person will be Emily. Emily, are you ready?
I am.
Okay, please come. Emily is head of the Anti-Hate Initiatives and Community Education Program Coordinator at SHILA. SHILA is the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights.
Yes, well, thank you so much for having me, Pamela, for extending that invitation. I'm so happy to see you all here and to see all of your beautiful faces. As you said, my name is Emily. I am leading the effort in fighting against hate and making sure that our organization is on the forefront of building community power and ensuring that our community is aware of the resources available for you all. And not only reporting hate if you ever see it, if you see a hate incident or see it or are victimized by hate yourself, but also on how to become a very powerful ally in your community and how to build community power across all racial and ethnic backgrounds as well. Because as we know, the immigrant community is very vibrant and very diverse, and we all have to work together to make sure that our communities remain safe and that our youth and also our elderly are safe and empowered. I am sharing some resources back at the resource table back here with our flyer that has some information that is relevant to our community, as well as our anti-hate flyer that has information on mental health resources, how to be an ally, and also the impacts of hate on our communities and the ways that we can stand up to hate personally and when we see it on the street. As well as information on immigration services that are provided at SHILA, financial education, your health rights, because we know that sometimes hate isn't the only thing that matters to our community. It's also something that can exacerbate other prevalent issues like housing, issues with medication, issues with accessing health care, discrimination in healthcare and workplaces. So that's something that can often bridge multiple issues, right? So hate can bridge multiple issues, and so we want to make sure that we're battling it wherever it is found. And so I'll have resources back there, but I also want to talk to you all a little bit about what we do at SHILA. So SHILA is an organization that has been working on empowering immigrants and ensuring that our rights are met and that we are advocating for them on both the state and federal level. And also increasing the visibility of immigrants in our community and making sure that we are taking control of the narrative, because as we know, the narrative now is very anti-immigrant, very anti-everybody that is not of a certain background. And so we want to make sure that we are taking back control of that narrative and making sure that we are telling our own stories, that we are sharing what matters to us, especially during an election year. We want to make sure that we are telling our own stories and that we take control of that narrative. And SHILA's here to help navigate any of the resources. We know that we usually throw a lot of information at you. We have an immigrant resource hotline number that you can all call. We have information and partners that specialize in multiple languages. We know that in our immigrant community is very diverse in language as well, and sometimes people and elderly folks also have difficulty expressing themselves in just English. So we have partners that specialize in different languages, and we can help you navigate both California versus hate, which is a resource line that you can report hate incidents and hate acts to. LA versus hate, which is the LA-based version of California versus hate, and help you kind of decipher what program and what reporting toolkit is right for you if you're ever in need of reporting. And if you're not, we're here to always help you answer any questions about any program, about any question on immigration. We have immigration legal services, and we also have advocacy available at our offices. So if you're ever in need or would like to volunteer or be more active in advocating for immigrant rights, I know a lot of you are already incredibly active, so thank you all for your work. But if you're ever in the area, would like to stop by as well, we're able to take any questions and welcome you into Churlas and advocate and participate with us as well.
Thank you so much, Emily. That was a lot of information. Information that a lot of us here can use. A lot of you are already probably doing well immigration-wise, but I'm sure there are other resources that come to the housing and health, and mental health, a lot of things. And some of us have family and friends or people that visit that come from different parts of the world to be here, and you don't have a clue where to start. Shirley will take care of that for you. Please, please, please do not feel alone. We are here to provide resources. Thank you, Emily. And in the spirit of resources, as a matter of fact, a couple of days ago, someone reached out to me about a young Senegalese kid that was stranded and eating from the dumpsters or just really struggling. And I think I referred them to the African Coalition. I don't know if they came to you tonight, but I did give your information to them. No one should be really struggling. And recently, tonight just opened a house, the African Coalition opened a house that we were part of, supporting our Romana's home. Just to let you know, no immigrant should be unhoused, especially not one of us. So without further ado, I want to call Sinai Alev, who's the president of the African Coalition, to share about her organization and the resources.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much. Thanks. First, I really want to appreciate Pam and Charles' long-time commitment for this, supporting any organization, whether individual or organization. We hit together, you know, as she said, we have so much issue in our immigrant communities, more so for Africans and Caribbeans, and of course Pan-Africans as well. And one of the issues we have the immigration. Immigration is not just a service, but when they travel through all 3, 4, 5 countries and get in at the border, that's the main issue we encounter. We had to do something, and we help immigrants who are staying at the border in Botswana. That's the reason why we came up with this transitional housing. When we visit there, you know, as everyone else, there's also marginalized communities, even within the refugee center. So once they cross the border, so there's a problem. That's why we have the transitional home. All this, I'm saying this, and my sister, because we need to work together. It takes a village to raise the kid, which everybody's coming here as a kid, starting from scratch, right? With that, the African Coalition was founded in response to mental health issues within the migrant community back 13 years ago. For that, we just had to have something, so-called resources for our community, because we are the community. It's an immigrant-driven organization, right? So bad. Anyways, we provide mental health service and also immigration services for free. Yes, we are funded by the state. And she said we just finished 20 Mauritanians who were detained at Atlanta. We helped them to be released, including we have to pay fee to and phone. And we got another 35 Senegalese like a week ago. We have 5 women. So we're processing all these immigration services in addition to other. So I think we get together to learn from each other, to support. And also more so, one of the issues we have with at the border in the United States, hate. So we have to stand united against any hate. We also have to reaffirm our community and our children that we will have fostering the environment where everybody valued equally and feel somebody respected. So this is going to be ongoing.
I don't ever plan to.
Pamela said, I can't tell you what we do. We have a lot of things together, but I've also met some other great women who are here, Pan-African, who are doing amazing work. So every table, I'm sure there's someone doing something for the community. It matters. So this mixer gave us an opportunity to know each other, to respect each other, to support each other. So I thank you again, and we look forward to working with you at any level. For sure, we have to stop hate and other crime and violation against anyone, any human being. So if you want to have information, it is AfricanCoalition.org. You can have the number 213-0909-0985. Lots of people who encounter with anybody across the border, single women, We still have a capacity to fill out this shelter. It's a transitional home. And also if you have anybody who needs mental health support, we're there for you. So we do have, this is provided by us for African originated people. So thank you.
That's amazing. Thank you tonight. Like I said, this is a social conscious party. This is kind of like state of the affairs of the immigrant community. So we know who our resources are, who our leaders are, and what our challenges are, and going to find help when we need help. I just saw the founder of the Garifuna Indigenous International Film Festival walk in, Ms. Freda Sidorov and Dr. Sidorov. Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate you. So that's more of our diversity. Charles and I were in Belize last year. It was an amazing experience. And without further ado, I want to introduce someone that's going to give us a little bit of motivation as we segue into one of the most important components of today, our youth. So allow me to introduce Mr. Elvis Prince Topnia, who's a speaker and confidence and communication skills coach, helps to amplify their voices and to teach us how to communicate effectively. Elvis is a winner of the Month Storytelling Contest, and he's a multiple times winner of the Toastmasters Public Speaking Competitions. He's an author of 2 books, Rise to Your Best Life and Light Up Your Life. And Elvis is also a founder of Africa You Can, a nonprofit organization with a mission to inspire, motivate, and empower the youth of Africa to build hope and create a vision to live their full potential. Couldn't have had anybody better to transition us into this next segment. And to Elvis, the microphone is yours, and I bow out.
Thank you, sister. Thank you very much. Wow, this is like TikTok. You gotta stay in one place. You cannot move. For the camera. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would be introducing to you today the youth. But before I do that, I just want to take you to a little bit of journey. Are you ready for the journey? No, you're not ready. I don't hear the energy. Are you ready for that little journey? So, I cannot see many people because it's a little bit out there. But by the show of hands, how many of you ever been victim of hate? By the show of hands. All right, quite a number. Now, the next question is, how many of you have ever been the other side of hate as a perpetrator? Nobody? Does it mean that we do have sense in this room? Or we are just ashamed of what we did in the past? I still remember what you did last summer. But anyhow, we're not here to judge. We are here to give grace. It doesn't matter what happened in the past. What matters is what we do starting now. I want you all to repeat after me. What disqualified me in the past is what qualifies me today to help somebody else. Let's try that one more time. What disqualified me in the past is what qualifies me today to help someone else. Thank you very much. I want to know again by the show of hands, how many of you know of anybody who's very shy? Just by the show of hands. Who's very shy? Now, I want you to put all of them together. That would be me growing up. I grew up in a small village in the West Province of Cameroon. I was a very shy child growing up. In fact, it was almost disease. I never almost spoke in class rooms. Not because I didn't have a question to ask or an answer to a question that was asked. Simply because I was afraid. It was paralyzing. It was debilitating. that fear attracted so many bullies in school. You know, kids from different grades and different ages would just bully me around. They would treat me poorly and very nastily. Some of them would actually take me around behind the classroom and beat me up and put me in the dirt. And I never even raised my hand to defend myself. They would call me different names. Here they would say longo longo. There they would say Chinese bamboo. And over there they would say turn. That was short for skeleton. And even when I went to college, back home, it continued. They actually added another name to the list, and that was anaconda. I came to the United States, and I thought everything was over. This is the country of the free. But the bully didn't stop. Now it wasn't based on my physical trait. Now it was based on the fact that I couldn't speak a word of English. They would make fun of me. The way that I spoke, the accent with which I spoke. My accent there was different from what I have now. What I have now is slightly refined than what I had back then. But the bottom came for me when I was taking English at Santa Monica College. My professor called my name because I never even participated in anything in class, and she wanted me to read a passage in the book. When I stood up, my mind sat back down. Yet I had to walk in the front to read. It seemed like eternity just to walk in the front of the class. But when I got there and opened the book, that's when all hell broke loose. Sweat stopped pouring all over my body, including my head. It was the time I had afro. I used to have afro. Can you believe that? I used to have afro. But sweat stopped pouring all over my body, and I stopped to quiver. Just the moment I opened my mouth to read a word, a syllable escaped my lips and then drew on the pages of the book at the watchful eyes of all students. For somebody whose self-esteem was on the ground, that was the lowest of the low for me, the bottom, the rock bottom even. All I could imagine is the chatters, the laughters, and the mockeries of all students. All the traumatic event of the past experience, it just flooded into my brain. All I could do at that time is just grab my stuff and fled the classroom, never to return for 2 weeks. After a few days, when the emotional trauma of that event has waned, I serendipitously picked up books and started to read. For an African guy, we usually don't read books, but something pushed me to take a book and start reading. And partly because I wanted to close from the outside world. But when I was pouring myself in those books, something magical started to happen. The more I read, I was realizing that I was increasing in vocabulary, and the knowledge from these books started to give me some level of confidence. And at one point, it was as though a small fire was being lit inside of me. I wanted to scream. I wanted to decry all the hurt that I've been told since my childhood. But simply because I couldn't go back and stand up to the bully, I set myself to help the person I used to be, the voice of the voiceless. You see, communication became what makes me come alive. You see, what disqualified me in the past becomes what qualifies me today to help somebody else. It doesn't matter what happens, but what matters is what you do with what happens. Because the obstacle can become a way. So I challenge you. I challenge you that as you let your light shine, as you let you liberate from your own fear, I guarantee that your presence would liberate others. That's what we call the revolution. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I am supposed now to introduce the moderators for the youth session. And I think I left my phone for the introduction. If you can, Junior, can you give me the phone? I probably left it on the bench over there. I need to properly introduce them. I just want to touch up, the highness. How we doing? Yeah. How do you feel about the journey I just took you on? Yeah. All right. Now we get into the meat of the thing here. Let's just get to it now. All right. Since today we are to give the stage to the youth so that they can enlighten us into matters of breaking barriers and empowering the diaspora, the black diaspora, I will introduce those who will be moderating that youth panel. Our first moderator, Reverend Calvin Soul, a seasoned leader in faith-rooted community organization, embraces progressive and prophetic tradition in the Pan-African and Black liberation movements. With over 25 years of experience in pastoral and executive roles within the United Methodist Church, he has been a driving force for social justice. Reverend Soul has led initiatives such as the Stop the Hate Against Black Immigrant campaign and co-founded organizations like the Black Alliance for Just Immigrant, the BAJI. He is dedicated to empowering young people for social impact, evident in his work with programs like the Destination Leadership Development Program of Sanctuary of Hope. As a columnist, podcast host, and founder of Soul Strategic Solution, SSS, Reverend Soul continues to advocate for racial justice and transnational solidarity, grounded in spirituality and Ubuntu. He is committed to building equitable communities and advancing the revolution. That was our first moderator, ladies and gentlemen. The second one now. Big hands, please. Yeah, loud. I can hear you. Yes, that's an accomplishment, really. I don't know if you can beat that. Our second moderator today is Juanita Palacios Sims. There you go. Founder, International Society of Black Latinos. Co-chair Juanita V. Palacios Sims, a Cuban Colombian American fluent in Spanish, founded the International Society of Black Latinos, SBL, in 2010. With a bachelor's degrees in business administration and management, she is actively involved in community organizations and serves as co-chair of the Stop the Hate community organization, the ISBL. Under her leadership, she focuses on educating youth people about cultural awareness and historical understanding. Palacios Sims is also committed to supporting girls in foster care and has been recognized for her impactful work, receiving awards such as the Village Award and recognition on NBC U9, Telemundo, a broadcast television station. She is by the motto, educating and uniting our community, fostering connections that strengthen communities. Please put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, for the two moderators, Reverend Soul and Juanita Palacios Sims.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Are we together? Yeah. Let's say down with hate, up with love. Down with hate, up with love. Stop the hate. Elevate love. Y'all don't sound too excited right now. Okay? Stop the hate. Elevate love. Up with love. Down with hate. All right. We've been introduced. It's time to bring our young people up because we really want to center their voices this afternoon as part of how we continue to get to know and understand the challenges we have around anti-blackness in the United States of America. Anti-blackness in general, because of this colonial enterprise called the United States of America, right? Some of us left colonialism. We thought we came to the land of milk and honey, amen, all right? And then all of a sudden we realized that even here, you know, folk are recovering from post-traumatic slave syndrome. Come on, somebody. You see? And so, and the milk and the honey, somewhere, you know, we can't find it, right? But we are here, and there are those who've been here before us. But it is so important that we hear from the next generation, because they are the voices from the future. Everyone say voices from the future. Voices from the future. And we are blessed that we have them present with us today. And so we have two panels, and I'm going to ask Juanita in a few minutes to call up and introduce our first panel of 4 young leaders in their own right, in the work that they are doing, who they are. And then we're going to switch to the other panel that we have, another 4 that will continue that conversation, you know, with us around how it is that we've been called to. I want to write lift up the theme that we agreed on, to breaking barriers and building bridges, empowering Black diaspora youth against hate and discrimination, because they're going through, and they're going to share that. So I'm going to hand over to my co-moderator. Let's give it up for Juanita, and she's going to call up the first panel for us.
Thank you. Before we do that, can I have everyone stand up, please? Up. After that wonderful meal, we need to stand up. Where's our DJ? Can we have a little bit of music? Hey, I'm from Cuba, so we gotta get some salsa or something going. So we have something. We have some Cuban dessert for sugar. Get that sugar going. All right, just shake it up a little bit. I need the energy. We need the energy, especially for the young adults that are coming up. We need to motivate them. And as we're doing that, I'm going to invite our young adults to come in. Let's shake it off, y'all. Let's shake it off. Let's move around. All right. You may all be seated. Thank you. Why don't you wake everybody up? Right. Yes. So we have Elijah Washington. Elijah Washington. Adamu. And then we have Vanessa. Hi, good afternoon. And then we have Isaiah. Buenas tardes, Isaiah.
You speak Spanish?
What's your name?
You do?
I do.
Why do you speak Spanish?
Why do I speak Spanish?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that, Isaiah. Let's talk about it. All righty. So, let's talk about what we really want to get into, because we want to hear from young adults, and this is very important. So my first question is, what do you think are similarities and differences between each of you? And we'll start with, let's see. And tell us something about yourself that we can learn about.
Okay, so my name is Elijah. I'm 24. I'm currently a certified nursing assistant, and I'm also the founder of the Youth Action Board at Sanctuary. I do a lot of advocacy work within the community involving youth homelessness and racial equity.
So, what do you think are similarities and differences between African American, and Afro-Latinos? Let's start there.
As an African American, I think the difference between like Africans and Afro-Latinos and African Americans is just like the culture basically and the knowledge of where you come from. I feel like as African Americans we don't necessarily have like that extensive knowledge of where we come from exactly to the point, but in other cases like Africans and Afro-Latinos, they're able to like trace it back to the exact like country or exact like, place where they're from. And I think that just it creates a barrier between the three because we're like not the same, we're not like treated the same. So.
Alrighty, I'll come back to you. Keep that in mind because that's really important as far as not being treated the same. Same for you, Isaiah. Same question, but tell us a little bit of who you are, please.
For sure. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Isaiah Clark. I'm a fourth-year sociology major at the University of California, Los Angeles, or UCLA. Some of my background goes, I consider myself Afro-Latino. My mom's Mexican, my dad's Black American. Grew up in Los Angeles, been in Los Angeles my entire life. As far as what I do, a lot of my work is centered around like education and community service. Currently, one thing I'm doing is I'm president of my club at UCLA, Immigrant Connection at UCLA. And essentially, our whole goal there is to bridge the gap between African diasporas and Latin communities, just like educating people on their existence and culture and history. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. And
so let's slow down just a little bit.
Sure.
Because you sound like you're speaking Spanish like a Cuban. Slow it down, bro.
My gosh, y'all.
Because we really want to get to know who you are.
Got you.
So what do you think are similarities and differences between each of different African American, Latinos, and Africans?
Got you. So I would say the biggest difference, honestly, between all three of those is the proximity to our place of origin. I feel like kind of speaking to what Malaysia was saying. Obviously, you have like Black Americans and Afro-Latinos that are further removed from like continental Africa, and that has been the source of a lot of like disconnections and like dissonance within our diaspora and within our communities. But I would feel like there's also a lot more similarities between each of those ethnic groups, whether it be like our ability to dance, or cook, or just like sense of culture, community, or resilience. I feel is very strong between all three of those groups, and it's why we're all sitting here today. So I'd say those are some of our biggest differences and similarities.
Hi everyone, my name is Adamo Ba. I'm a UCI graduate, class of 2020. And I'm from Rancho Cucamonga, California. I am of two Cameroonian parents, so I'm from African descent. I tutor on the weekends. I'm part of a program called Legacy Roundtable where we tutor young African scholars from 6th grade all the way up to high school, so I'm involved with the kids as well. And in regards to the question of the similarities and differences between the Africans, Afro-Latinos, and African Americans, I think we have a lot of similarities in terms of shared culture. Obviously, when enslaved Africans came onto the ships, they had a sense of culture, a sense of history, a sense of belonging to who they are in the world. And I think as Africans everywhere, we kind of embody that, right? Whether it's music, it's dance, even when it comes to resistance and resisting Europe, we all have similar things that we did. So I think there's more similarities than differences. Obviously, colonialism is the main antagonism that exacerbates those differences. So I think that's going to be the main thing to get over in terms to have liberation and a utopia ideal in terms of all Africans. So that's how I'll answer that one. Thank you.
My name is Vanessa. I'm from Rancho Cucamonga. I haven't done anything yet. I'm still in high school, but hopefully I'll get there. I think some similarities between us are like the roots of the culture. So like, I know we all see like a lot of Black people trying to talk a lot of hair braiding. Some of the foods are similar. And then I feel like with cultural differences, maybe like the music necessarily, or like a lot of things that we we do now with social media, but I think that they all present back to the same things.
All right, there we go. So we started off with differences and similarities. Given the context that we are in, you know, sometimes differences, right, gets amplified to the point of othering others, right, who are described as being different. Have you experienced that? If so, you know, how did you handle the fact that sometimes what makes you different, whether it is as an African American, what makes you different, whether it is as second generation, you know, immigrant, or, you know, Isaiah as an Afro-Latino, how does that make you feel, and how, in what ways, you know, did you strive to either figure it out or overcome it?
So for me, I feel like my story is a little bit different. Most of my peers that identify as like Afro-Latino or Afro-Latinx will tell you how they struggle to like accept both parts of themselves, or how they struggle to fit in with either Black people or Latino people, either being two Latino for Black people, or two Black for Latino people. But as for me, that wasn't really my experience at all. And I take pride in that. I feel like my experience as an Afro-Latino living in Los Angeles has been a very, very positive one. I went to an elementary school that was a social justice magnet school, so it was very centered around like race, social justice, and like how we operate in the world. And I remember one of the first projects I ever had to do was in second grade, and it was to like break down of like our ethnicities and our heritage. And so like from that point on, I was just always encouraged to embrace both sides of myself, whether it be Latino side or the Black side, and so I never felt any sense of like misbelonging or disconnectedness from like me or my culture. And so I always like carried that pride around with me. It's a very positive thing, and it's a positivity I hope to bring to the Afro-Latino community and to my peers, and just continue to want to spread that joy and that positivity that comes with being an Afro-Latino, right? All that history and all that heritage and all that culture that comes with it is definitely something to be proud of. It's something that it's a joy that I definitely internalize and embody. I try to embody it every day. So yeah.
Okay. Anyone else who'd like to share a little bit about, you know, the differences and how, you know, you've worked hard to overcome that, especially, you know, in light of the pressure?
So I kind of want to speak to like my experience like within the medical field, because that's where like I've encountered a lot of like differences when it comes to Africans or like Afro-Latinos or something like that. So it's just like it's a constant like difference between the two of us, and I just feel like I didn't always know that, because especially like growing up in school, like we try to like make it seem like all the Black people are the same, like we all are in the same sector, but like when you get out in the real world, it just like it was really making me feel different, because a lot of like Caribbeans or like Afro-Latino, they're not really accepting of African Americans, or like they don't see us as the same. So it was really hard for me to like navigate the medical field, because it's like I need your help, you know, and y'all don't help me just based on the fact that I don't speak the same language as you guys, or like I don't have the same culture. But I was thinking that we were the same type of people, so it's kind of hard to navigate that.
Great, okay, Adamo or Vanessa, any of you want to respond to that question?
Yeah, I mean, especially, I grew up in the suburbs, so around majority white people for the majority of my life. But, you know, some of the Black people that I was around when I was growing up, you know, there's a disconnect, right? Because obviously in Africa, or us coming from Africa, they think of Africa as backward, as lacking innovation, as people who don't have anything to offer. And you kind of internalize that. And then, you know, but the same things that I'm learning is that Black people, thuggish behavior, don't have anything to offer, you know, those same stereotypes. But then the older you get, as you said, the more you realize there's systems in place that make people gravitate towards certain behaviors, right? So just kind of studying and realizing that whether it's Ebonics or Pidgin English, right, we're all part of a same shared history. And that's something that I've tried to navigate through, and that's something that kind of helps me bridge the gap between Africans and African Americans, and even some of my Afro-Latinx people that I've met in my life.
So Vanessa is a high school student in Rancho Cucamonga. Tell us a little bit about, how it has been, for you as it relates to the differences and how you, work to navigate that as a high school student.
My school is really white. It's kind of like, it's pretty boring. I feel like in order to make friends, you really have to put yourself out there, especially like the darker you are, because it's like everyone kind of just falls into cliques where there's the white people, and then there's the Mexicans, and then there's the Asians all in one group. And then you kind of just stand out, and then in order to make friends and stuff, it was really hard for me at first, because I didn't really want to talk to people, but I wanted to make friends. So I kind of had to learn how to talk to people a lot more, and how to make sure I don't come off too aggressive, because I know some of the kids at my school find a lot of black people super duper aggressive. So just really trying to paint yourself in the best light without getting attacked too much. But other than that, it's like, I'd rather go to somewhere else with more people of color, but you have to make do with what you have.
So as you can see, they're setting us up for the next questions, So I can't wait for this next panel, because they're going to take it to a whole nother level. But anyway, Vanessa picked up on this, in terms of, where you find yourself in the context. And in so many ways, when you talk about, your school, it becomes a microcosm of your community, your county, your city, your state, right? The entire country. Isaiah, you talked about, how to figure out, where to fit that down, which is the same thing as well as, Malaysia. Talk a little bit about, maybe an experience that you had that caused you some pain, right? Also known as breaking, you see, or otherization. And how did that, impact how you see yourself, feel about yourself, in terms of that? Who wants to kick that off first? So I don't know if we're going to make ourselves vulnerable also. So I'm going to ask, Juanita, because we talked, a little earlier about this. Yeah, think about it, just around, because all of us sitting here have gone through this in some form. I've been in this country now for over 30 years, in terms of that. So let's this year, around Juanita's experience, in terms of that. And then we'll come to Adam, and then we'll come.
So briefly, I was both African American during the week, and I was Afro-Latina during the weekend. It's funny now, but it wasn't funny then, because I was bullied when I was little, because I spoke Spanish and had an accent. I went through that all through elementary and junior high school. So I worked very hard to lose my accent. And by the time I got to high school, no one knew that I was Afro-Latina, because I didn't want any of my friends to know that I was from another country or that I was different from them. So I became African American. Today, I just love the fact that I have all of this beauty with culture and background and history, because I was raised here in Los Angeles. But that was my experience, and it was tough. And I remember when I got out of high school and went to college, and then I started the International Society of Black Latinos, which I have to do a big shout out to my board members. Where are you guys? All right. That sounds really weak, but that's okay, guys. But it wasn't until October 10, 2010, that I started the International Society of Black Latinos to bring awareness of the Afro-Latino, the African diaspora, and to bring awareness of our rich and diverse culture. And when I say the African diaspora, whenever we have an event, we start out with the motherland, Africa. Then we go into Latin America, and then we end up in the United States of America. So, you all ready for the question? All right.
Yeah, I have a particular memory. I think I was 12, and it was in 2012, and it was when Trayvon Martin had gotten killed by George Zimmerman. I remember watching the news with my dad, and he said something to me. He said, "Son, it's a war on African men, and when you're 12 and you kind of have to live with the weight of the world wanting to see you dead, and they're able to kill you, the state is able to kill you, and they reinforce it every day, educationally too as well. It kind of breeds a lot of pressure, right? It breeds a lot of anxiety. It also breeds a lot of anger, because you're constantly trying to prove yourself. But I realized I don't need to prove myself to them first and foremost. I need to prove myself to my people and be an asset to my people. So I think that event of Trayvon Martin really just kind of demonstrated to me the Western world in particular is a very brutal world. And to be around African people is one of the few ways that you're gonna navigate through it. So that's probably my answer.
As for me, I would say, I don't think there's any like one particular experience. Looking back on it, it was just like an amalgamation of things I can say throughout my educational trajectory in particular. I think I went to school on the opposite side of my town, so I was always finding myself in some predominantly white institution where I just was not learning about my history in most classes, unless it was like a special project or a project I was given agency over, which was very rare. It did not happen often. And so looking back, I can see that for me, a lot of my history was being erased and not taught to me, especially as an Afro-Latino. Like, it wasn't until college that I learned that, I don't know if you know this, but 95% of enslaved Africans in the Atlantic slave trade were brought to Latin America and the Caribbean, while only 5% actually went to North America. And so I remember learning that and just thinking about how my entire history was just being dispelled and erased. And it's something that made me very upset. I was just very frustrated. And that's why I joined ALC, my club that I'm in right now, because it just served as that space for me to continue to learn about my culture and to learn about its rich history. Not only to learn about it, to spread it to others, and just further solidify my presence, especially at a place like UCLA, which is a people for sure. So that's something that I've experienced. Oh yeah, ALC's Afro-Latinx Connection, they used to, yeah.
I had was probably at school with one of my teachers, and she wouldn't stop trying to say that I don't pay attention. But I had an A in her class, so it didn't really make sense to me. She would always try to pick on me out of all of the students to make it look like I was the one who was being the problem. All of there were like a lot of other white kids who would say really disrespectful stuff, and she wouldn't say anything about it. I don't know, it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And then ever since then, I just don't really like to speak in class.
For me, I think it's like similar to what Isaiah said about like it being a whole bunch of things that really contributed to that I was different. But like I've always known that there's been a difference. I've always had to go to like white schools and always been like separated and things of that sort. So I just feel like there's a lot of places where you get to feel like we're made to feel like we're different, and like it's not really a limit to that. I definitely like I said before, like the medical field, I feel like that was like the main thing in my adulthood that really opened my eyes to say like that I was different, because I'm thinking like we're all like a part of the same workforce and like we're doing all our job for the same reason or whatever it is, but it's really not that. So I think that was like my main eye opener for sure.
So these are all microaggressions that we go through, and really microaggressions, it's like downplaying it, because there ain't such a thing as a microaggression. It is a major aggression because it causes trauma, right? And to try to figure that out as a young people or a young adult within this context, can be very, very, challenging. So in light of, the potential trauma that these microaggressions, are created for you, how have you what skills have you learned or tools have you acquired to overcome and bridge beyond these, microaggressions? Any of you, can share, how have you, overcome?
For me, I can say one skill that I've definitely developed over the course of time, just like being an Latino in America or in the world, is definitely a sense of navigational capital, which just speaks to my ability to persevere and navigate certain situations. I feel like being a minority in America, you definitely have to pick and choose a lot of your battles all the time. Until you end up combating things like racial battles fatigue or just like loneliness or just a plethora of other like ailments that can make you suffer. So one thing for me, I definitely learned when to pick and choose my battle, because not every battle is worth fighting, especially if I'm interacting with people that I'll never have to speak to again. So it's kind of just become, it's honed my ability to protect my peace, essentially. And just not having to deal with stuff when I don't have to, because people's problems with you aren't your problems, those are their problems. The best thing you can do for yourself is to have confidence and knowledge of yourself, and everything will take care of itself. So definitely for me, navigational capital, protecting my peace. People's problems with you are their problems. Those are not your problems.
I agree with that idea again. Definitely, like knowing your history is definitely important. And all of being treated differently has definitely prompted me to discover my history and do more research and just basically figure out the barriers that we're trying to break down so that we can all become more of one. I definitely think like choosing your battles definitely is a big one too, because we're always tested on what we think like we should say or what we shouldn't say, or what's important to fight for, or what's not important to like discuss. But I feel like we have to stand firm in knowing that, like telling you the truth of what our narratives are, and we can't like shy away from that. So I think that just knowing your history and like sharing your truth does make us skills that are acquired.
Knowing your history, that is so important. And that's what they try to keep from us. Books, burning books, hiding books, taking books out of the library. It's up to us to teach our children. Anybody else want to answer that question?
Obviously, I think the history point is a pretty good point. I would also say studying the history of the world, not just studying African history, but also studying history of those who are from the Asian diaspora, right? Studying people from the Asian diaspora, just other diasporas, because I think each culture that we learn from or we study from, they have a lot to teach us about ourselves, and we have a lot to teach them. And I think these cultural conversations, whether it's along racial lines or even class lines, can leave an impact on you, right? So I think it's really important to understand the history of the world, people, and how they got here. And I think that's going to be a huge bridge to how we relate to one another, because there's more that separates us. No, there's more that binds us than separates us. So I'm a big believer of that. Yeah.
Going back to what they were saying earlier, I really think that, well, I'm still learning how to like pick my battles, because sometimes people will say things to me that are pretty offensive, but honestly learning to just like not say anything back to them, because at the end of the day, if I say something back, I can get in more trouble, or like responding too harshly, just in general, just learning how to, like he said, keep your peace and just leave it alone.
Alrighty, this is our last question. Bringing it all together, do you think that there's racism among us? And it's interesting that you mentioned learning about other histories. It's really important for us as immigrants to learn about the African American history. We need to start there. It's really important, because separating ourselves, we like to say we're African Americans, we're Afro-Latinos, we're Africans, but I think just using the word Afro is what's trying to bring us all together. So, in that question, do you think there's racism among us as African Americans, Afro-Latinos, and Africans? and how can we unite and educate one another?
Sure, that's a great question. I would say absolutely, it does exist. I feel like existing in the world or existing in the colonial imagination, whether it be in the West or globally, anti-blackness itself is something that has been weaved into everyone's culture, from regardless of like what ethnicity or place you hail from. Like you can go to anywhere in the world and face some type of anti-blackness. It's crazy. So I feel like given that it definitely does exist within our own communities and with the own ways we've internalized it, especially in the African community, whether it be things like terms like Pero malo, like bad air, or just like the blanqueamiento that took place in Latin America for over 100 years. And it's just what that is, it's just like the erasure of blackness and black culture in Latin America, whether it be due to racism or like as a means to survive. So you have people throughout, like Brazil, Panama, all throughout Central and Latin America who are walking around with 4C hair and wide noses and big lips and dark skin saying that blackness doesn't exist. So absolutely racism exists in our diasporas. And it's because it's been internalized, it's because that's what's been like the driving force behind the development of the world. And in terms of like how we come together, we're doing it right now. Like teaching each other, giving each other grace, compassion, and understanding. And understanding that we're more powerful together than we are apart, for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say, of course, there's prejudices that exist in the African community, whether that's towards fellow African Americans. I've been a victim myself, and there's also behaviors that I've internalized when I was younger towards African American people, and I think the biggest way to get over that one is education, right? Understanding the history of our people, who we are, understanding that we built everything, whether that's the pyramids, we're the architects of the world, we're the musicians of the world, we're the artisans of the world. Understanding that cultural piece is important, understanding that historical piece, and then in order to get past those schisms and differences between all of us, I think the biggest thing is understanding colonialism, right? That it is an entity that seeks to divide, capitalize upon, and exploit us as a people, because that's how the system continues to function, right? The exploitation of the many, for the benefits of a few, and I think if we understand that, we'll be in a better place, for sure.
Honestly, I think there's like a lot of colorism that goes on within our community, and I feel like it's really dealt with because I feel like before, like a lot of white people try to make black people that assume that their skin isn't worth it, or that their culture doesn't have richness of its own, and make it seem like their culture more assimilates to being rich, popular, cuter, and then making, I feel like, blacker or darker skinned people feel like they're more associated with being poor, or what they do is just terrible and that they're dirty. And so I feel like that really built into a lot of black people today, and that they assume that the closest you are in proximity to being white would really help you, or that you're richer, you have more money, when really darker skinned people can have just as much money and everything. But since we've really tried to relate back to white standards, that we've really been racist to ourselves.
You're preaching, girl.
There definitely is racism and oppression amongst us as a people, as a race, even like the diaspora. But I definitely think that it's very prominent. Like you said, there's a lot of colorism, like basically between like the light skin and the dark skin. Like it's just like I don't understand that. But basically to combat that, I think just knowing that like having knowledge and sharing knowledge, like that's the main thing. Just knowing like the systems that are in place, educating ourselves and educating each other. Definitely like with the way that we carry ourselves, just carrying ourselves with a sense of pride and knowing who we are, that just speaks to how other people are going to treat us and experience us as well. Like, because it's not always like we are always seen as ghetto or like loud or something like that, but we need to definitely change the narrative and put it lighter.
All right, yeah. So we have about three minutes left. So this is your final comments, all right? So in a minute, would you respond to this question? What do we need to become so that everyone can belong? What do we need to become so that everyone can belong? Right? In about 1 minute, just from your heart, what do we need to become?
I would say we need to become love. I feel like it's the only thing strong enough to permeate the many boundaries that divide us and separate us. And that I feel like true genuine love is the only thing that's really gonna overcome that. So become loving.
All right. Amazing.
I agree with that. Love, definitely just being more accepting of one another and each other, being more open with our history and our knowledge, like I said before, just being able to share that with each other. I think that's important because that's the only way that we're really going to know exactly how to move forward, is if we accept each other and really.
Yeah.
We need to be teachers. We need to be able to teach one another, right? Teaching requires being able to learn. So putting your ego down, right? Wanting to understand, listening, not just hearing, listening to what someone is trying to tell you. So I think if we can be teachers and be able to be taught, then I think that's going to go a long way in terms of, being unified as a people and as a diaspora, for sure. Yeah, 100%.
I feel like we just need to be more confident within ourselves and become more of a united front. Because there's a lot of Black people that, as you're trying to stand yourself up, they'll be like, oh, don't do that, or something like that. They'll call your hair nappy and stuff like that. And so I just feel like building confidence within ourselves will help us a lot more.
You guys, these young adults that come up to give us their perspective, they're sweating up here, really giving us their whole, best up. So we really got to give our best up and show appreciation, please.
Attendees, Washington, show your love now. Come on, y'all. Adamo, show your love, y'all. Yeah, it's an evolution. The next answer, come on, y'all. Show us some love now. Isaiah Clark, Apostles. Show him some love, y'all. Yeah, we're taking a quick break. We're switching panels. One love. Let's move, y'all. All right, as the next panel coming up, Mr. Robert Kirkham Jr., Emery Hooks, Lisa Wilson, Devon M. Watson. Come on, y'all, let's show them some love. Let's get back to our seats, please. Everybody. Give it up for the brothers. Robert Kirkham Jr. is the president of the Cameroonian Youth Association. And so glad that he's here for us, looking all fly and dapper. Look at him, y'all. Emery Hooks, looking fly and dapper. You got some Attendees on? He's got some Attendees on. That's my man right there. The main man, Devon M. Watson, CEO, Maynard Firm LLC, but also doing some extraordinary work at Black Women for Wellness around the upliftment and empowerment of men. So glad that he's here with us. You all received the flyer that you got. Everybody like the flyer that we got? That's the man right there, Devon M. Watson, y'all. He hooked it up for us. Burning midnight oil. Lord have mercy. Thank you, man. Thank you for coming through, for stepping up, stepping out. Much love to you. All right? Let's give it up for all three of them as they prepare themselves to come and continue sharing. Okay? So, you all have heard what's been said. We're going to, like we did with our previous panels, just introduce yourself, a little bit about who you are. But as you introduce yourself within the context of the breaking that continues to happen, with African Americans, African immigrants, Afro-Latinos, within, this, so-called melting pot, right? this experimentation in assimilation that's going on. Introduce yourself within that context, because then you'll begin to hit some of the points that we want to get to in our conversation. Okay, I'm going to ask Emery to start, and we'll make our way.
Hello all, hello. My name is Emery. I'm one of the youths who at Sanctuary of Hope. I'm also a son of an immigrant, grew up in a woman, so as of recently I'm getting in touch with the Grew Up in the Heritage a lot. We actually just recently celebrated the Survival Mass. So Survival Mass for the Grew Up in the Heritage, celebrating the remembrance of us being exiled. And also we are giving a tribute to those who have graduated this year. So this year for our graduates of 2024. So that's something that I've been discovering. Also recently, I've been considering myself a bit of a human rights activist, okay? I'm going on my second trip to Cuba just in a week, bringing almost 100 pounds worth of medical supplies, electronics for the Cuban people. So yeah, and that's just a little bit about me and what I have going on right now.
Awesome. Henry went to Cuba with me and went to his young adults for Sanctuary last year, so we had a wonderful time.
Hello everybody. My name is Robert Kamian Jr. and I am president of the Cameroonian Association, known as CAMUA. And I'm also founder of the Language of Cameroon series. It's an organization that solely focuses on promoting and highlighting Cameroonian languages through English mobile apps. So we're developing mobile apps that help teach not only to speak, but to write and also read in the dialect as well. So that's one of my main objectives. I'm a proud Cameroonian. I'm also a prince from Bangwa in the division West Cameroon. And my sole goal has always been to promote Cameroon culture because I'm very proud of where I come from and I see no shame in hiding. We have a rich heritage, rich culture, and I want to make sure that I educate and promote our culture to as many people as much as I can to spread awareness.
Before you pass the mic, for some of us that don't know about your culture and heritage, educate us.
Okay. So I come from two tribes per se. So my father's side is Bangwa of Lebialem in southwest Cameroon, and then I come from Banante from my mom's side, from the west Cameroon, and also from Bamison of northwest Ndop. So Bangwa, essentially Banante, essentially from the Banake ethnic group, which is the dominant in West Cameroon. And so we're what's called the grassland people, grassfield people. Grassfield people, yes. And then northwest is what we call Ngafi or Bamenda people, as most people refer us to.
What's good, everybody? Clearly, I don't sound like y'all, right? So I'm a New Yorker, first and foremost. Any New Yorkers in the room? I'm also Panamanian, I'm Central American. My family came over here in the 50s and we hadn't left. I'm the CEO of the Maynard firm, and what I do is what everybody told me when I graduated from Morehouse I couldn't do. And I do social impact projects, improving the lived conditions of black men and boys. I'm a dad, I have a 16-year-old daughter, and I have an 8-year-old son. My goal in my work, and my goal in my being, is that I'm not gonna be able to do everything for them forever, but while I can, I will. And that's what brings me to work.
So just so we're clear, slow, when you talk, speak a little slower, so we can grasp and celebrate you. Because you mentioned a few things. So what exactly are you doing to make sure that your kids and a lot of other kids learn about your heritage?
The heritage piece for me, well, I'm from New York, so I transitioned to California 5 years ago, and I have been literally yelling at the top of my lungs that not all Latin folks are fair-skinned. Not all Latin folks are Mexican, and not all Latin folks speak Spanish. I think that there's a lot of misnomers, misunderstandings, lack of exposure that does exist over here. And I understand California was stolen from the indigenous folks who owned it, and I understand that they're going through their own trauma. However, coming from New York, where I am a part of a very robust Panamanian community, where we have a Panamanian Day, and we have Panamanian celebrations, and we have certain areas of New York City where you can, I think I heard somebody here say that it should never be one of us that's without. Same thing with Panamanians. If you come to New York, there's an auntie, a cousin, or somebody where you could go get a couch, get a little job, get on your feet, and keep it moving. So my thing, while I've been over here, has been edifying the diversity that is within the Latin community, and also shining light on the disparities that exist. And as it relates to the work, a lot of my focus as it relates to social impact is directly correlating to social advocacy, legislation, and policy. So these conversations, I remember when equity first got started, I was one of the first individuals in Long Beach that really pushed for us to understand that when we use terms like diversity, equity, and inclusion, we're erasing race and reconciliation. We're erasing the history of which peace building actually stemmed from, which is another effect of white supremacy, because if we don't talk about where things begin, we don't talk about slavery, we don't talk about apartheid, we don't start at the beginning, then we over-sensualize these new terms, and then it's this new idea when we've been struggling and living in this for forever. So that's always my thing, to draw policy and to also be a person for exposure, but then also like draw emphasis on like the history too.
Thank you, which leads to, as an African, African-American, Afro-Latino, and I gotta give a shout out to Afro-Europeans, and I know we have one in the house, and some in the house. Where are you all? I think she just left? Okay. So, how do you maintain a sense of cultural identity and pride while assimilating into a new society that many have different culture norms and expectations? Was it deep?
That was deep question.
Okay, give you time to marinate, as Melissa would say. Okay, as an African American or African, Afro-Latino, how do you maintain a sense of cultural identity and pride? Let's stop there and we'll continue on.
Well, for me personally, like I kind of said it a little bit already, getting more in tune with my Guerrero heritage. I'm definitely doing my best to learn the language, speak the language, because that's a barrier. Because a lot of Guerrero people speak Guerrero, and I really want to be able to speak to my grandmother in her own language. A lot of them speak Spanish, so language is definitely a barrier that I'm trying to break down myself. And also just being more engageful. It's something that I definitely learning as we go right now. It's very new. We actually celebrated this survival mask on the 20th. When was it? It was the 17th, I think it was. It was the 17th. So what was it? It was the 12th. Yeah, it was earlier. It was mid-April, the 12th, and I was there, and it was just a beautiful ceremony. It was really beautiful. And man, 227 years. It's deep. It's and I'm a survival of a very resilient bloodline of people. It's something that I'm starting to understand. And as a youth, one day it'll be on us to carry that and teach it to another generation of people. You know what I mean? So it's definitely something that I'm learning as we go right now.
So for many who don't know who Hadifuanas are, because unless you're from Latin America or where they reside here in the United States, please give us a history because we are learning about one another.
I'm glad you said that. Because I brought my pamphlet from when we were at the Survival Day Mass, the Guerrero people, So it's basically, so departed St. Vincent and the Grenadines on March 11, 1797, 2,248 Garanagu, including 722 men, 806 women, 720 children, arrived in Roatan, Honduras on April 12, 1797. So that's a 227-year-old when we remember it, it's 227 years ago when we were exiled from St. Vincent. And as you can see, that's a very slim amount of people, and a lot of that is my own ancestors. You know what I mean? And right now, it's not that our culture is dying, but we need to do our best to keep it alive. You know what I mean? And it's something that is very fresh to me, because my mom did her best to introduce me to that culture, but you know, she has her own story with immigration and you know, not being able to be in tune with that side herself. But it's a journey that me and my mom is taking together, and especially with this newfound information for myself, I definitely do my best to contribute to that by, you know, again, this is new, but I'm going to be, you know, doing my best to volunteer at events, teaching this to my kids. Definitely, I'm very prideful of this. Very prideful of this. So I consider myself Afro-Caribbean. That's why. So yeah, this is something that I definitely plan. That's a little bit about the Garifuna people, and they're from Belize. A lot of them migrated to Belize. If I didn't get that there, my apologies. So yeah, yeah.
Same question for you, but see, it's important to teach about our history and teach us all about our history. Same question for you. Should I repeat it?
Yes.
Okay. So, the question is, as an African, African-American, or Afro-Latino, how do you maintain a sense of cultural identity? How do you maintain a sense of pride?
Okay, so I won't lie, it was very difficult, I would say in the beginning, trying to kind of balance it, because growing up, I knew I was African, because I go to we used to go to a lot of events, you know, the culture we were raised in the house, it was, you know, Nigerian movies playing 24/7 on TV, and that's how I remember like growing up. And when we used to go on field trips, my mom would always put me in African attire whenever we went to field trips. And of course, it was fun going to school and then watching the people stare and look at you like, oh, are you from Africa? Oh, were you born there? They asked me all kinds of questions. So it was really like, I just, growing up, knew I was African, but I just didn't really, I guess, have an idea of what it really truly meant to be African until probably a lot later on. So I had this idea growing up, people would tell me, oh, do you guys live in trees? Do you guys live in jungle? Oh, how do you guys, you know, and those are basically like the reality that stuck with my mind, because I really thought that's how Africa was. That it was just a jungle, that we didn't have what we have here. So that was an eye-opener. So in 2006, I went to Cameroon for the first time. And it's funny because on the plane, I was literally, we were like probably halfway through Cameroon, and in my head I'm like, wait a minute, where's the plane gonna land? If we live in jungle, where's the plane gonna land? Where are we gonna go? I was asking myself, why do we pack all these suitcases and these things? We're gonna go in the middle of nowhere. Where are we going? So I was just, in my head, I thought, okay, I'm gonna have a pet monkey, I'm going to have, like, this is the reality I left with. And then I got to Cameroon and I'm seeing buildings, I'm looking around, I'm like, I'm like, Mom, buildings. I look around, I'm seeing, when we got out into the airport, I'm like, she's just like back home. So my eye really opened at that time, and that's when I really truly understood, like, the lies that we've been told about being African, that shattered our whole reality, actually landing and stepping foot on the soil for the first time. That was an eye-opener. So I would say preserving the culture, and for me, it's kind of like, it's a tricky balance, because it's like, yes, I was born here in America, I grew up in America, and I tried to identify with Black culture, and I tried my best to identify, but I have never really fully identified with Black culture. And that's just been me, because when it comes to Africa, it's where my heart is. My heart's always where at home. No matter how hard I tried to blend in with Black culture, it was not possible for me to fully assimilate, because my culture is too rich. There's too much richness, too much life in my culture for me to give it up. And so I have to hold on to as much as I can. Did I get made fun of? Of course. I'm sure there's no African that has come here and not gone through that journey of being made fun of or being discriminated towards. Even looks, when I wear my traditional attire, I get a lot of looks, and it's mainly from my fellow Black American brothers and sisters who are giving me that very same look, or dirty look, that I would have expected from other groups. So it's hard maintaining the culture, but standing firm and knowing that I know where I come from, and that's something that nobody can take from me. I know where I come from, I know where my ancestors were, and that's something I'm going to hold on to, and I'm not going to let anyone take that from me. So it's a matter of, no matter what society says, oh, you got to be this way, you got to be this way. I know who I am. So I'm going to continue doing me, and I'm going to push forward however that may look like, regardless of what adverse I may face.
As an African American, how do you maintain a sense of cultural identity and pride?
It's pretty simple for me. I prioritize everything Black first. Like, I understand the system in which we operate within. I understand the depth that white supremacy ideologies have infiltrated American thought, American business, American education, all facets of life. And I prioritize being Black first. And that comes actually from growing up as a Black Panamanian and my family instilling in me a very stout understanding that America does not like you. They never will. It was created for them not to like you. So from early on, nobody in my family was really interested in assimilating or being a part of it. We knew that we were something different and we were special. So my day-to-day, I'm unapologetically Black. I'm Black every day. Some days you may catch me and I will put on the voice and I will entertain the masses and we will code switch and we will actually use the language that people expect us to use. And other times I'm like, what's good? Because I'm allowed to do both. For me, I work with Black businesses. I always find West Indian businesses everywhere I go. I've lived in several states and my first go-to is where are the West Indians? Where are the people that look like me? How can I support them? How can I get involved in the things that they're getting involved with? I find value in that. That's me. That's where I come from. So my day-to-day of living in my excitement about being who I am, every day I wake up, even the life that I've committed for my job, like my social impact projects, it has to be Black. There is value in that. I think there's value in that. And my opinion matters to me. So I live like that. So that's how I live day to day. We understood very early on who we were, not necessarily who we were, but we understood early on. And my grandmother would tell us in Spanish, which was crazy, but this Black woman telling us like, America hates you. And we're like 3-year-old kids, and we're like, well, what does that mean? And she's like, you still gotta be great. And it's like, okay, challenge accepted. And that's just how the day-to-day for me has been. Like, I'm a powerful.
I'm going to bring this in because I want to include the parents because I've heard each and every one of you, just like myself, and I'm sure Reverend Salz and a lot of us here, our parents were great influences in our lives as well as our grandparents in giving us that pride of who we are. Here in America, you hear a lot about mama, big mama, in the South, they're here. And then, in our countries, la nana, la abuela, abuelo, and in Africa, you have, your grandparents. I wanted to have Pamela come up to talk about an experience that took place. But I think it's very important that we bring up how your parents influenced you and how it helped. We have 7 minutes, so I'm going to have Pamela speak.
Wow, let's give a round of applause to our youth panel. And the fascinating moderators. It's not over yet, and thank you all for staying and listening. This is a social conscious party, and I'm so happy that we are really making this an important activity. And Devon, I wanted to thank you so much for your contribution in terms of the flyer. I was going back and forth with Reverend Salz, but thank you so much putting faces to our youth. And you guys represent a majority that is not here, but your voices are their voices. So the reason I guess my sister and brother wanted me to come here is because to share what motivated me to want to do a youth panel. I remember when I was on the radio, KPFK, for those of you that listen to KPFK, I used to do a show called Impact. And one time I was sharing with my son, I don't want to call him out, I have two sons, so you have to guess which one. I don't want to put him on the spot. But he had shared with me an experience of when he might have been in middle school or high school. And I was having a conversation about the African American experience, and a lot of ignorance, you know. And my son said to me, he said, Mom, you know, you immigrants come here, you don't understand what these people have been through, and you just talk. And I was like, okay. And then he told me his story. He said, do you know that one day I was going to school? And the way he described it, he wrote an essay about it actually. He said I was going to school, I was wearing my Vans, I had my socks knee high, I had my backpack on, and I was on my way to school. And as I was going to school, I saw two young white girls in front of me. All of a sudden, they started running. And I thought maybe there was somebody chasing after them. So I got worried and concerned that that person might be chasing after me also. And so I started running. And the more I ran, the more they ran. And so I turned and said, who is really chasing us? And when I turned around, there was nobody. It dawned on him that he was the one they were running away from. That story broke my heart. I had to have him on the radio to talk about that experience. And so it dawned on me that we parents are very ignorant about the experiences of our children. And sometimes when they come home, my son will tell me, and all my kids will tell me, they're like CIA, they're like double agents when they're with us. They hide, they don't want to be the snitch. Sometimes it's the teacher, sometimes it's the principal, sometimes it's the friends that pick on them based on race. It's totally different having the experience of childhood that we all had, but to have that experience based on how you look like or based on your culture is heartbreaking. And that's why I wanted us to have this panel, to hear from you. To hear, maybe you get to realize that you are not alone, that there is, there's a community for you. And that's why we have this resource here, the California State Library, the Stop the Hate campaign. So if any kids, if any of your parents are experiencing anything of the sort, please report it, it's important. I was at another event, at a dance event, and after I spoke about the Stop the Hate campaign, a mother, African-American grandmother, reached out to me, and her child had been experiencing something similar, but it was coming from the principal of the school, the teacher of the principal, one of them, was antagonizing the child, and this parent didn't know what to do. And ironically, she was someone that was on the board, on the school, something. And I was like, if you can't help yourself, how can I help you? You know? And so we have to band together. I just wanted to share that. Thank you for having me share. This is your event, and you have let me have this bit. Well, sis, you guys are doing an amazing job. So thank you. I hope I shared enough to help.
Did you have an experience? I know you talked about yours with the alphabet and African American kids in front of you. And it's funny how, with us, we're our worst enemies amongst ourselves. Nobody else has to make us look bad. We make ourselves try to look bad, right? So, what was your experience, and how did your parents help you with your culture and identity?
I don't have a lot of experiences like that. Something that comes to my mind definitely is just growing up, and the biggest thing I would hear a lot growing up is, this is crazy, you talk white. That's like, I heard that so many times, too many times to count. I've been in a lot of, party chats or something, you play the game or something, you play with strangers, and they'd say, you talk white, like you're not black, and it's because of the way I talk. They know that I'm not black. They deny all blackhood because of the way that I speak. The way that I speak, I enunciate my words, I talk. To me, I talk regular. I don't, for me, this is just how I talk on a regular basis. I don't, and code switching is a whole different thing for me. I don't, code switch or anything like that. The same way that I can talk to my friends is the same way that I will talk to my employer. Because that's just for me, that's just who I am. And to me, it's not weird or anything like that. My mom didn't help at all. And that's no sort I've heard back, but because it's something that's just such a weird thing, because it's like, why are people saying you talk white, or why does that matter? For me, it's not something that, it's something that today I still like, I feel like nowadays, I feel like we moved past that as a culture, which is a blessing. But back when I was a kid, I definitely got that a lot, because trust me, the same way I'm speaking now is how I used to talk when I was, in high school, or not in middle school, but in high school, I definitely still talk like pretty much how I'm talking now, my regular speaking voice. No changes to it or anything like that, so, yeah. My mom, like I said, she didn't have that much.
So I want to take this moment to first acknowledge the sacrifices that not only my parents, but a lot of my aunts, uncles who came from Cameroon. I want to take that moment to acknowledge them, because they left everything that they knew, their communities, their families, friends, things, the layer of life that they were used to come to this country and start from basically scratch all over again, to start from. And having to adapt without having the guidance or having a community to give them that guidance, to me was truly remarkable. And that's something that I cherish truly every day. Especially when I see my father, I see my mom, and I see how far they've come now versus back then when they first came. All the odd jobs that my father and mom told me they used to do when they first came, just to make it, just have a living, so that way they can build up to where they are now. And so that's something I want you to acknowledge first, as our parents, because they, if not for them, we would not be here. So I want you to give them that credit. As for my experience too, I would say I have a lot of stories, but for time, I'll just keep it brief. I recall that after I came up in Cameroon, my English was not as good anymore, because I was speaking broken pidgin or broken English. So it took me like some 3-4 months just for me to get back into speaking what they call proper English. And I remember it was even a time where in high school, in my sophomore year, I was actually sent to remedial English because my teacher claimed that I had written some weird language in my essays. But what I was unaware of is that I was writing broken English in my essays when I would write. And so I had to try to learn how to teach myself from doing that when I was writing my papers. And I know growing up too, it was not easy for me in terms of friends, because a lot of people said, oh, I didn't fit in, or I was weird because I did not fit the mold of what they were expecting. Because mind you, in our African culture, there's a certain way we were taught growing up. You respect your elders. You don't speak unless you're spoken to. Don't put yourself in people's business that you don't belong in. Keep to yourself. Focus on your book, focus on your task at hand, and move forward. So I didn't really fit into that mold, so it was kind of difficult for me to truly blend in, I would say. So it was tough. It was a tough upbringing. High school wise, it was tough. It got worse in high school, but it was a little. But I would say one thing I truly give credit to is, number one, I think Nigerians. The Nigerians truly show me that you can truly be truly African and still succeed in this world, because I remember my parents used to tell me that they had to speak a certain way, or they had to basically try to undo their accent just so they can have opportunities. A lot of parents, a lot of uncles I've spoken to tell me that, oh, they didn't pass the language down to their kids because they were afraid that it was going to hinder them from having opportunities. Well, one thing I think Nigerians proved that you can still have your language, have your cultural identity, have everything, and still succeed, and still thrive. Culture alone, your identity alone is not a factor that's going to hinder you from success. That was one thing that I really appreciate Nigerians for. And second, I think Black Panther was the eye-opener, because it was the first time seeing an African hero on the big screen. And from that moment, I remember all those kids, all those people I grew up with who make fun of me when I was wearing my African attire, are there wearing dashikis too now. They're wearing the same thing. And I'm just like, oh. So I look at them so when I was wearing it was a problem. But now that when you come out, you guys want to be African now all of a sudden. So it was a really, and again, it gets in the way for me, it was a proud moment for me, because I felt finally I can be African without the retaliation or the aggression that I was getting before. That I could truly be openly African and unapologetic and not have to fear that I have to hide that identity. So it was a big relief for me to be able to finally say, okay, I can finally be myself and be appreciated for that.
I just wanted to kind of just say one more thing as far as like I really appreciate hearing your perspective. We had two opposite things. He had broken English in school, while my English was fine. So it's like there was no winning regardless, obviously. And I just wanted to say, like, you know, it's just so weird how we can be afraid of things that are different. You know what I mean? And if that's something that, you know, we can get over, we can go so far. And also wanted to put some more respect on my mom's name. My mom, I love that woman. She's the best. Honestly, she got a taste of my medicine in school when she went back home for the first time in a long, long time. When she went back home, she got a taste of how I felt. Because, you know, she went back home, she's like trying to put on this Creole accent, but they, you know, they saw through it. You know? She's like, you're from America, you know, you're English. It's like, so she understood how I felt, you know, going to school, speaking how I speak, and then she goes to Belize, I keep saying that, but she goes to Belize and she speaks like that with her family and they can see right through it. You know what I mean? For her, it was code switching, but because she wasn't going to pretend to try to speak a language that she has not spoken in such a long time. So, you know, I just wanted to get over here and say that. But my mom, I love my mom, you guys. She helped me a lot do what I went through, but, you know, yeah, sorry.
And just to add to regarding code switching, so I used to code switch, but now, and ask my friend to tell you, I speak pidgin 24/7 to them. And I told myself, I said I'm not going to change myself and hide myself because you guys don't want to understand. You guys are going to learn culture today, and we're going to learn. If we can go to school and we can say all these Greek names, Russian names, you can say my name. So, we're going to learn.
Panamanians are very competitive, and we're competitive in a different type of way. Like, we are competitive in the ways that, like, if a Panamanian is doing it, that's gonna motivate you because you just know that it wasn't you that did it. And this was instilled in us as a young kid. I'm quite sure most of the black people from other countries out here have that same thing where you get in the house and you're like, we gotta be the best out of all of us. And what ended up happening, I'll never forget, in the 3rd grade, in New York City, standardized tests were things that before No Child Left Behind were implemented. New York City students, I was a student in the 90s, they had already been rolling out. So they had already been instituting standardized tests, and I'm quite sure LAUSD did out here. And even having an understanding that the educational system is another system in America and that nothing is for us, you still gotta be the best at it. And I'll never forget in the 3rd grade, I was actually ranked #1 in my entire district. Now I'm from Brooklyn. Brooklyn is what is considered, what many folks from here would consider the ghetto. What I call it is the place of the oppressed people, right? So you have this 2nd generation immigrant black boy who is ranked #1 in the entire borough. Now, what I was entitled to was I was supposed to get jumped 2 grades because of that. What I was met with was resistance from the entire educational system because they wasn't quite sure if socially I had the skills because of where my family was from and what my background was from and what city I came from. So what that actually did is now I hold a master's in education. I hold a master's in education. I had opened up several schools where we prioritize cultural acknowledgement, relevance, and experiences. And my parents were the ones, my family was the one that kept encouraging me because for me, at that point, as a 3rd grader, I understood I'm in 3rd grade. I have 4th, 5th, 6th, I have the rest of this to go through. And these people talking about I gotta go to college, and this system hates me. And my family was like, yeah, so what? How you wanna live? It's like, shh, okay, so we're gonna do this. So my family that's still with me, my family that has transitioned, that are ancestors now, they've always just instilled in me, like, the system, any system will hate you, but we love you and push and push and push. And I think love was the recurring theme here was like the power of love. So that was how my family supported me through that. I had instances when I was in the military, and I had Hispanic white drill sergeants tell me that I'll never salute you as an officer because you're black. And I'm like, but we're actually closer. I'm Panamanian, you're Mexican, you're black. And then told my dad, and he was like, I told you the army wasn't a place for a black man. And then we learned the history of when black soldiers came back to America from fighting in World War II, and that these weren't just stories and ideas that like black films really like over sensualized. These are real lived experiences of black soldiers. These are real lived experiences of black kids that are constantly told, yeah, you're smarter than everybody, but you know, your people are kind of loud, so we don't know if you will do well in this type of setting. So my family, even to this day, the ones that are alive, that are here still, I still lean on them. Like from corporate to interacting with people day to day, to just making the right decisions. I'm like, I think I need your input because what I want to do, based on how the system is designed, I don't think that's going to go well. And then they're like, it won't, and you're allowed to feel like that, and what you feel is real. You're not just feeling something because nobody has done something to you. The system is not designed to aggressively attack you. You're feeling it because the system is working the way it should, and we still love it. And that's all that matters. So my family is constantly
there. All right. So they want to keep you invisible because they know you are invincible, right? You see. They want to otherize you because, you know, they know that when you are conscientized, right, you can be more than a conqueror. And that's why they're breaking up families, yo, right? It's not a new thing just because folk are coming across the border now. They broke up families, you know, the stories are coming up about our indigenous people, right? Broken up families because of, you know, the Middle Passage, right? You see? You know, so it's just new ways reading from the same old book, you know, around that. So that's why it's so important that we know the history, right? You know, in terms of that. Our final question, we're going to ask you to answer this in 1.5 minutes. Same question we asked the previous panel, right? Which is very, very important. What do we need to become so that we all can belong? Right? What do we need to become so that we all can belong in this salad bowl? Right? Salad bowl, not a melting pot, because that tastes good. You know, ain't too much spices up in there. Right? You see? Very bland. Okay? Salad bowl. Right? Or orchestra, you see, you know, around that. What do we need to become so that we all can belong? All right. And we're going to make our way up.
I don't think I need a minute, but I think if we can all just become one, like, village, you know, it takes a village to raise, you know, if we can become a village, I believe we can move so far. I think like we've hit on how just like people being afraid of something that's different, that doesn't go down in the village. If you're in the village, we're a family, you know what I mean? And we all support each other. This makes me think of like Kwanzaa, the importance of Kwanzaa, you know what I mean? And if you don't know the significance of Kwanzaa, definitely look into it. It'll change your life for real, and you'll want to celebrate it every single year, like me. So, you know, if we can become a lot more of a village, I feel like we'll go a lot really far.
He who writes the narrative shapes the reality. He who writes the narrative shapes the reality. We need to start taking our stories back. We have let others tell our story for too long. We have let others tell us where we came from, how we got here, but they don't truly know who we are as people. And we need to start educating our people about who we are and what we have to offer. That's number one. Two, we need to find a common ground. Because at the end of the day, we all come from different cultures. My reality is not your reality. My perspective is not your perspective. We have to find a way to come together and find a middle ground. We're not going to agree on everything. We're not going to agree on every single aspect of life, but we know that there's common interests that we all share in common. Other than being human, we all share the need to be loved, the need to belong, and the need to be a part of something greater than ourselves. So that's something we really truly need to emphasize. We love ourselves first, but come into the world with an open mind and know that you're going to meet people who don't share your same views or who are not like you. But it's okay. As long as we learn to love each other and accept us for who we are and never be ashamed of your identity. That's one thing. It took me a long time. I'm still learning that lesson now. Never be ashamed of where you came from, and always know that your identity is your identity. Nobody can take that from you. So hold it proud, hold it up high, and never let it go.
The question is what we need to do, right? So what I need everybody in here to do is go to www.empower25.org. What we need to do is when y'all leave here, we need to really start positioning ourselves to infiltrate the democratic system, infiltrate the political system, and go from us just complaining to us actually actioning around things that we want to see. If the second and third generations of folks that are here get involved with the influence from the elders, do you understand the amount of power that will be? I think immigrants typically think, and I know my grandmother, grandfather, aunts, and uncles that were not, they were naturalized, but they just didn't want to participate within the voting system. Didn't understand how many things happened and affected them because of that. So what we want to do is we don't want to leave anybody out. We don't want to assume that the Black Americans will carry this plight. They're tired, as they should be. They've been doing it. But their troubles roll right over to us because we share the same skin tone. So what we really need is all of the Black men in this room that do have the opportunity to vote to stand with us, to actually begin infiltrating these systems, infiltrating this democratic process, getting involved, letting people know what we don't like. And what we also need is the Black women in this room to get involved with Black Women for Wellness and support the #1 issue facing Black women right now, which is Black infant mortality. Like, Black babies are dying at a resounding number. It's not about happenstance. This is about design. This is intentional. So what we really need to do is get involved. What we really need to do is really understand that, like, the issues that we think affect just Black African Americans, as long as you got that 1% drop in you, it's going to affect you too. So www.empower25.org. I see my two guys in the corner, my canvassers, they're always with me, they're always outside, and we're always down to talk to you about how you can play a role in helping us disrupt and change some things.
All right. We cannot spectate, y'all. It's all about participating, and that's what it's about. So we all got to get to the table because there's room for the table. If you feel there's no room at the table, guess what? Organize to reshape the table. Come on, y'all. Let's show some love to Robert Kevgam Jr. Yes, sir. Emery Hooks in the house. And the bar. And Watson. Come on, y'all. Thank you. Wow. We've been set up and coming up as we close all of this out. Our two individuals, they've listened because they get paid to listen, right? and then to internalize that in a positive way, of course, and just share with us what they've heard, because we have adults here in the room, right? And so we want to hear, just what's being said, and just almost a guide to interpret it, if you will, and what to do, with it. Dr. Makisha Lawrence is here, a clinical psychologist, specializes in multicultural community clinical psychology, with expertise in psychological assessment and testing and brief therapeutic models. She works with diverse populations, including the deaf and hard of hearing community, children, adolescents, and adults. Dr. Lawrence also offers integrative therapy in her private practice. Come on, y'all, show your love for Dr. Makisha Lawrence.
And now we have a dear, I call her my little sister. She's Melissa Shepherd Williams. Make sure I get the last name correct. Otherwise, Brad, her husband, will kill me for leaving out the Williams. She is not only, I'll read her bio quickly, but she is our Vice President of the International Society of Black Latinos and one of the founding members, along with me and a few others. Melissa Shepherd is a clinician and adjacent facility, specializes in trauma studies and workplace wellness. As a Vice President of the International Society of Black Latino, she advocates for cultural understanding. With fluency in Spanish and expertise in trauma, she supports personal professional growth, emphasizing life-affirming routines. Her books offer tools for navigating challenges and finding joy. And please look up her books on Amazon. I introduce you to mi hermanita, Melissa Shepherd Williams.
I just want to say, wow, what a room of beautiful people. Yes. And what a room of brilliant young men and women who are going to be, the next wave of generation of activists in our diaspora. Truly inspirational. I was sitting over there in the back, and I was like, we're trying not to stare at everybody because everybody's so beautiful. Like, look at our skin, and all these different hues, and look at our clothes, and all these different styles and patterns, and I'm hearing different languages, and we're all here collectively, and we're really talking about how we can build more unity.
I second the emotion, as they say. It's such a joy to be in a space with our people. And to hear the young people on stage was so heartening. Every single time one of them answered a question, we immediately would look at each other and say, my goodness, our world is in great hands. Our world is in great hands. Such wisdom has been shared here today. We heard a long, long list of topics covered here today. And we want to thank Pastor Sauls, the light. Pastor Sauls and Juanita Palacios Sims, President of ISPL. What an amazing set of questions were asked here today. The amount of reflection that took place not only on stage, but we could overhear those around us feeling moved by the answers. And surely, we anticipate that you're going to go home reflecting further about this, and that indeed is the goal of this event. To start reflecting and continuing to go deeply into these topics. This is our freedom. This is our freedom.
I think I want to start off probably with one of the things that was most prominent, which was protective factors. Do we know what protective factors are? Yes? All right. And many people in many different diasporas have them, and we're hearing a lot of similarities in the current diaspora here in this room together around protective factors. So we kind of wanted to kind of touch on that, because what that is it's the hugest way of knowing how adaptive we have become. It's also a nod to evolution, because as much as we'd like to, if we stop, it is not. We will continue to evolve human beings. And so, honoring the protective factors such as our elders, right? Protective factors such as our stories that get passed down within the family, right? The ones that are not written down in books, but the ones that you're going to hear around grandmother's table, or the ones that you're going to hear in the church house. Our music as protective factors, our pride as protective factors, the ways in which we carry ourselves, the ways in which we honor our bodies. All of those things are protective factors that have helped us to adapt to present day. Does that make sense? I'm always asked, does that make sense? I gotta have follow responses. Okay, thank you.
That's the scholar response. us all to recognize that we are a miracle. The fact that we are here today, thinking out loud together about this, is a miracle. After hundreds of years of oppression all over the world, we are here still. Yes, a lot of pain has been moved down from one generation to another. It lives in our DNA, but thankfully, what also lives in our DNA are all the ways in which we carry out healing practices, unconsciously as well as consciously. Consciously, when we tell our stories, when Abuelita tells stories about her childhood, right? Unconsciously, when we move the way we move, when we talk the way we talk, that represents what we have inherited. So we are not here just throbbing humans in trauma. We are also here as a manifestation of the miracle of resilience. We are still here. And the sacrifices of our ancestors. And something to add regarding ancestors is that throughout the centuries, where so much of the energy that they used was to survive, one of the freedoms that we can really access now is to embody thriving, so that our energy can be used in other ways, in thriving ways. The pandemic had a really interesting way of placing a magnifying lens on everything that's been problematic for centuries. For us, members of communities that have been marginalized, we already knew about this. But for others who were encouraged to turn the blind eye, they were obligated to see it because we were all quarantined and we had to see it. And so much of the social justice activism that the panelists talked about, I feel like the pandemic gave a real push. A real push.
Something that I noticed in the panelists was, if I had gotten on that stage at the ages that you are, I would not have said anything as eloquent as all of you have said. It would not have come out of my mouth. It would have come out probably differently. However, I just want to acknowledge the wisdom of the seeds that you carry, and that you being on those panels are also ways of being continuous gardeners. Every time you go out and you share your culture, every time you go out and you have these kinds of in-depth conversations, you are gardeners. And gardeners cannot guarantee that everything will grow, but gardeners can guarantee that they will continue to plant. Yes? I want y'all to remember that. I am a black girl from Inglewood. Grew up, 5-minute walk from the Forum. West Indian father and African American mother, and it was never ever thought that I would actually gain a doctorate degree. Not even for me. And that happened because of gardeners. That happened because of the gardeners in my life. And the gardeners in my life are people like Lisa, and people like all of my other friends who are all of different varying places on the diaspora trail. So I just want you to remember that every time you gift somebody with your wisdom, or you gift somebody with your culture, you're planting a seed. Okay?
That's delicious. And facts. Facts. And one of the things that Makisha and I were talking about as we were listening to the panel is how wonderful it is to hear such consciousness about the value of our heritage, and that our freedom is not in finally one day, one magical day at 5 o'clock convincing the oppressor that we are of value. That our freedom is in putting all of our energy into going deeply into our history. All these organizations, here today that are about activism, about education. That's where we put our energy. That's investing our energy. So that we can be so connected to the value of our heritage that we don't need to wait until we are accepted by the oppressor. We don't need to wait until the oppressor opens their eyes and do their own healing, because they have a lot of healing to do, for us to go deeply into our healing and celebration of who we are. And that was a common thread in everything that was said on stage. And we're thankful for you. That's our freedom. That's our freedom. That's how we garden. That's how we garden.
Okay. I think this is the last thing that I'll say. How many minutes were we supposed to have? Are we good? Okay. All right. So the last thing that I think I wanted to say was, which was also a common thread, was the diaspora as a dynamic and ever-evolving entity. That we come together. There's a Buddhist nun, her name is Kima Children, and she has a book called When Things Fall Apart. And one of the things she says is things are going to come together and they're going to fall apart. And they're going to come together and they're going to fall apart. And each time that happens, we are still ever evolving, ever adapting, ever changing, while still giving a nod to ancestry. And so that was also a common thread. I don't know how many of the young people were talking about their parents. I mean, everybody, they talked about their parents. So, paying homage to our ancestry, paying homage to our elders, that's also a common thread. So, I loved it.
That was covered. We heard you talk about colorism. We heard you talk about microaggressions, and I heard Pastor Sauls wonder just how micro they are, because they cut deeply. And I too, the first time I heard that word, I thought, wow, micro? I mean, it happens every day, all day, and we have to armor up and have dual, triple, quadruple identity. That's a lot of work. That's why I feel like we're a miracle. We're still here with all the work we put in every day. And so our freedom is in, divorcing ourselves from all of that and just setting ourselves free. The brother who talked about how important it is to just honor your identity no matter what anybody says. And to hear you say that at your age, what a gift. So I wonder how many more topics we could cover. There was so much said, but we're thankful for all of you being here, opening your hearts to listen and think more about these topics. This is how we heal. This is how we heal.
Let's give it up for our clinicians, y'all. I'm glad I was able to pronounce that right. When English is your third language, sometimes you want to say clinician, then you say magician, But it is our clinicians. Wow, so much. So obviously we will have some follow-up on this. And I want to thank my co-moderator, give it up, for my sister from Cuba. My brother from South Africa. Yeah, Cuba, South Africa. We got some deep connections, y'all. Thank you so much. Great work together as always. And we will, continue this conversation because it's happening over and over again. It's an ongoing challenge that we are facing, especially as we go into this presidential election, right? In terms of how immigrants are being described, what's happening with, immigrants. When people say immigrants is on the ballot. Well, for black folk, we've been on the ballot since 1619. Come on, y'all. Amen. You see. And before that, in Cuba, they were on the ballot since 1530. So, but our hope is in these words. Nelson Mandela. Hatred is a learned behavior, and that means it can be unlearned. Unlearning, this is my attitude to it, is a process that sometimes takes a while, right? It can be painstaking. That's why in so many ways, as Pavan said, hatred must then be undermined. You see, as we continue to facilitate beloved community, centering our children, our women, right? And move towards what God has intended for us to be. And that's what this campaign is all about. It's all about Lovolution, y'all. And the queen of Lovolution is none other than Pamela Ancha. Let's bring her up as she shares the call to action. All right?
I really want to take this time to really thank Pamela for putting this together. She called me up. Let's give her a grand applause. This is something that we all need. It's a way to unite. This is how we become world citizens, not only with us, but even with other cultures, other people. This is important. So the work that you're doing, my dear sister, and I'm so thankful to God that we're doing it together and putting this special day together. I bow down and say, gracias. Come on up, Pamela. Thank you.
It made me cry. Thank you all very much. This has been a dream. I never knew we could do this. There's some people here that know the beginning of Immigrant Magazine. It's always been about uniting and just feeling different and feeling horrible about feeling different. And just wanting to fit in and just wondering why you are different. But now today, thanks to our youth, we learned that our differences are what make us special. And thank you, young people, so very much. You taught us so much today. I knew that there was something in you we could learn because, especially as immigrants, we know a lot. You know, we come from societies where we just look like each other. And then you come to a place where now you are the other. So thank you so much. I want to thank the amazing moderators. I was so worried about dumping so much work on you says, and she just said to me, oh my gosh, Pamela, this is what I love. As for Reverend Souls, this is what he breathes. You know, my husband Charles, amazing. And people that have supported us always. You know, I want to acknowledge the presence of Consul General of South Africa. CG, please come forward, let them see you. I didn't know she was going to make it. She's the one amazing dignitary that's here. She sponsored our first mixer, the holiday mixer. And she gave an amazing speech. Come forward, CG. This is the Consul General of South Africa. And when I say Consul General, she's got the rank of an ambassador, not just an ordinary CG.
And thank you for supporting this initiative because you are the ones they are able to carry the baton. And I'll just appeal to people that do not keep quiet as an immigrant when you're faced with any form of atrocity. Even to the African Americans, I've seen you suffer, I've seen you being marginalized. It's your time to keep quiet. I have to say this, maybe I'll be studying war here for Professor Souls. I want to do one face. I know you have got a minute. You can't give a politician a platform. And this lady is from the Native Americans. She was saying to me, they get $2,500 a month. $2,500 a month. And I asked myself, what about the African Americans? If they can give them, yes, they're the founders of the land. What about those who were taken as slaves across the Atlantic? What are you giving them? So I pray that this initiative goes much further as we continue to stand for rights, because Africa is still standing for rights. You know, we face atrocities with Israel and Palestine. I have to mention it to say we are standing on human and morality issues. Not to say we hate anyone, we hate not children, Muslims, but we're standing on humanity. So continue with this. We will seek more sponsors for you on this because today we touch with the young people. I think the next one must be women and people with disabilities because they tend to marginalize them. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, CJ, and that's true. The next one has to be women. I'm not going to say any more, but I want to thank all of you for coming. Thank all our sponsors, individual, corporate, and please know that we always need help. Our next event is going to be in June. Counting on you again. It's going to be another rousing and amazing event. And I wouldn't be done without calling the call to action. Please, if you know someone that experiences hate, encounters hate, please report to California versus hate.org. Go there and report it. If you don't report it, nobody knows that we experience things. They need to document. It's very important. And also, when you report it, you will be contacted and action will be taken. It's not just because you report it, but there will be action taken, whether it's legal, financial, civil, whatever. Some action will be taken. You will be contacted and your case will be handled. If you can, you also call 833-8-NO-HATE. But you know what? It's easier to just go to CaliforniaVersusHate.org. Thank you so very much. I know Reverend Sauce had a special treat for us as we enter our place. There's still more food. Eat, make merry. Please, let's continue to build what? The Lovolution.
All right, we got a special treat for you, some live music. Afro-Cuban is in the house, Sister Didan, that's it, right? Okay, she's an extraordinary violinist, and she's going to treat us now as we fellowship and as we continue to get to it. Please don't leave you without at least knowing 3 or 4 new people, all right? Very, very important for us to do that. So let's give it up for her. She's going to take it away, and let's enjoy the conscious party and go out here knowing that we can make a difference.